All right, well, welcome back to the show. It's Michelle here, and I'm so excited because Tish Luka is joining me. Welcome to the show, Trish.
It's actually Tish, no R.
Oh, Tish, sorry.
Tish, yep. I know it happens all the time, so don't feel bad.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Well, I am so happy that you're here. And I just in the little conversation that we started with before we hit record, I really I'm already loving you so much. Like, and just I feel like we have a lot in common. So can you tell everybody else, share a little bit more about yourself, what you do and who you serve, all that good stuff?
Sure. I guess I'll start with saying, like, I kind of came from a marketing background, did marketing and sales kind of my whole life. And when my kids were born, I was doing sales. So I was, I kind of had transitioned from doing a lot of like behind the scenes stuff because I was like, well, I'm doing all the marketing, like I'm writing and creating things, and then the salespeople are out there, making the money. And I was like, okay, I gotta get into sales. So then I started doing that. And then when my son came along, he was diagnosed with failure to thrive. So he was just a tiny little baby, and we couldn't get him to eat. So kind of my whole world came crashing down, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I have to focus on him, and that's it. So did that. And when I was in sales, I loved it, and I had a really great schedule, and I worked with great people, and it just gave me a lot of free time. But I realized, like, okay, I'm also away from all my friends and family. So I kind of got like sucked back into working for, a company, because I wanted to move back home and be closer to family and friends. So I started working for a company doing business development, and ended up right back into marketing again. And it started like delving into like digital stuff, right? And so I built a health and wellness website, and it just kind of just kept growing, but I didn't really know like what I was doing or what my purpose was to do all that. Mm-hmm. So we were like growing in subscribers, but we weren't selling anything. We were just like giving away value and just like growing like crazy. And I loved it. So I knew like, oh, this is awesome. Like, this is so much fun. This is what I should be doing. And so I decided, like, once my son got better and things were moving in the right direction, I was like, okay, I got to get back to not working for someone else and, having this freedom. So that's what I did. And I ended up pitching that health and wellness, whatever it was. We were trying to sell it. And I ended up pitching it to Comcast. And I was trying to get them to bring it in-house as like a health and wellness program, and kind of like using that as like the internal platform. Mm-hmm. Long story short, they said, no, we already have something like that, but would you be interested in this? And so I got this other opportunity to pitch an anchor, and build like all of her material and digitally. Mm-hmm. And so I did that, and it was like so funny because it was like right when I transitioned from this company to starting my own business. And then I just kind of just like, all of a sudden I had this really big opportunity. So I started having to like Google and figure out like, okay, how am I going to make this proposal? And like, all of the stuff that, we get buried in. And so I ended up doing that. I ended up getting some help from different people and different places, and put it together, and I ended up getting it. So that's kind of what launched my business, really, was that first really big job. And then a lot of my business after that was referrals. But as you and I kind of were talking about at the beginning, it's like I was doing everything. And I think for me, I wanted so badly to show them like, this can work for you, right? Like all this stuff, like if you just do it and you just follow these systems, it will work for you. And as you and I both probably know, that doesn't work unless everybody involved is putting in, right?
Yes.
And it doesn't matter if you put it in for them, because it's not their story. It's not their business. Like, it's got to come from them. And so that was like a huge thing for me. I was like, well, I'm doing all this stuff because I want them to succeed. but I was finding myself just completely overwhelmed, doing way more than I should be doing 10 times the stuff that I had signed up to do. And I just was like, this isn't why I started my business. And I was like, working 24/7, and my kids weren't seeing me. And I had hired help, and whatnot, but it was just like, I just couldn't be everywhere. And it was like, you're dealing with a lot of different personalities, and the people like at the top, or the people you're actually doing this for, you're not getting to spend a lot of time with. So I started realizing, like, okay, is this really who I want to be doing this for? Because I want to do this for people who have like the same drive that I have, like that same ambition, and they want this as bad as I want this for them.
Right.
So that's what got me sort of thinking in that direction. And again, like, I was lucky because I from there I got some really great referrals that generated a significant amount of income that I could sort of pursue those other passions. And so as I continued to consult for larger companies, I also continued to build programs to help women like myself do the same thing I did, and sort of transition out of that and build some like digital assets where they could help people in whatever fashion that is, whatever their, I hate to say passion because it's so overused, but whatever it is that they're really good at, that they would be able to help someone with. Like, I wanted to show them how they could do that and how it could work. So I spent the last few years doing that. I joined, I was in 2 Comma Club and did all of those programs and kind of learned and spent a lot of money learning. And then now I'm in the Digital Insiders, and I still am really dedicated to that. But yeah, so that's how I developed this program, which is called Say Goodbye to Done For You. And it's all about teaching other women how to sort of not necessarily start a business, because it's more really for people who are already in business. They're not serving like the right audience. They're just kind of taking what they can to survive. Because I mean, I think the biggest thing is you're kind of like working backwards. You're like, okay, you're learning these lessons, and you kind of like, gosh, I wish I would have known that 6 months ago, or I wish I would have started this way or done that. And then you're in the midst of it, so you can't go back and change those things because you don't have the time.
Right.
And or you feel like you don't have like, you feel like you're always behind. Like, I'm not an authority online yet, or I don't have any social proof. Yes, I do this behind the scenes, but like no one knows who I am. Because I mean, think about like how many writers or graphic designers or even like a therapist, they're doing all of this stuff, and they're very, very qualified, but online they have no footprint.
Right.
So this program is designed to sort of show them how they can get into that game and build this footprint and have some massive credibility.
I love that. So, and that's what we're talking about today, right? Like pivoting our business away from the one-on-one, and really figuring like how to navigate through that. And it is a little bit scary. Not only I'm speaking out of experience, but also some other people that I talk to who have one-on-one programs, because they're like, okay, I'm guaranteed this money, right? I'm now having a new offer. Or are people going to like that because now they don't get that one-on-one attention? Are they really going to want to be in a group? Are they going to want to disclose all the information that they would tell me on a one-on-one? Are they going to want to share that with, it's like all these thoughts go through your head. And then obviously with anything new, it takes a minute to get launched and going and sold and, thriving. And so it's that fear. And even just going back to what you were talking about, where it's almost like when you first started this and when you were talking about who you're working with, and that definitely happens with Done For You, it's almost like they hand everything. When you say, oh, I'll take it off your plate. Yeah, literally they think that means literal, like, okay, now you're the CEO. And then I remember, I think it was in 2020 even, I had to fire a couple of clients because I felt like, wait a minute, I'm definitely caring more about your business. I'm staying up at night thinking about all these different ways, which is not even in my scope of work.
That's
Right.
right.
So, but what happens is you get into this place of lack. So it's like, oh, wait a minute, the money's not going to be coming in. So I need to stick to this. And it's kind of like you're in this tug of war. Like, I need to keep one foot over here versus over there. So one of the things that I kind of suggest, and tell me if you agree or what your take on that is like, let's say I want to pivot. I don't want to do one-on-one anymore. This is not my jam. I'm over it. Like, I've had enough. And then it's like, I tell myself, I actually told a friend of mine this because she was like really upset. I don't want it anymore. Like putting her stake in the ground. And I said, okay, I know you don't want it anymore. But then at the same time, she would call me in the next box would be like, oh my God, but how am I going to pay my bills? Right. So I was like, well, what if you don't commit to long-term? What if you keep one or two of your favorites? Right. You know it's not forever. This is only temporary while you're working on building your other thing. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, I still do consulting because it does help me with that. It helps me to be able to build these programs out. And a lot of times they do take time, and they take, it's a long-term game. So a couple of things that I do with my clients to help through this is, and I have a really big worry side to my personality. I worry like about everything. Mm-hmm. In fact, my husband jokes like, you jumped out of an airplane when you were 27 and now you're like a worry wart about everything. And I'm just like, I don't even know how I jumped out of an airplane. But
I find when you get older, you're not so, what is it? Fancy free and carefree or whatever.
Yeah.
Something like that. You get it. Okay, go ahead.
But I think like, so what I do, and this is something I learned like very early on, is Timothy Ferriss in the 4-Hour Workweek. He has that fear setting exercise, and that like I will bring myself back to that exercise a lot when I'm struggling with making a pivot in any part of my life, and I start to worry because I think like, okay, well, what's the worst case scenario, right? What is the worst thing that can happen, and write it down, right? And then if that like, how could you prevent that from happening? Mm-hmm. And then if that were to happen, how could you fix that? What could you do to fix it, right? And if it's, I wouldn't have enough money, or I wouldn't be able to do this, well, I could drive an Uber, or I could do this, but what would the consequences be if you didn't take that opportunity? And then when you kind of look at it on paper, you're like, maybe I should do it, because it's really not going to be that bad. It's because it's always worse in our minds than what we think it is. But I think you're smart in saying that, you don't want to be like, oh, I'm only going to build a course and I don't even know if it's going to work yet, but I'm not taking on any more clients. Like, obviously you want to be smart about it and transition in a smart way. The program that I've designed, there's a lot of advertising too involved in that. And so you're kind of validating your product first. And so you get the opportunity to see, is it going to take off? And the beauty of the program that I've designed is that you're sort of paying for your ad spend with your purchases. Right. So as you're building that credibility for that big offer that you're, going to create, you're using this. It's almost like a stepping stone offer, like a bridge offer, so that you can build that credibility and sort of make that jump, but be able to spend the money that you're making from the products to generate those people coming into your business, right? Those new opportunities and that new client base. And so when you said, I thought that was so perfect when you said, I just don't know if they're going to like this, or, they're going to want to talk about their problems within a group setting. And so then maybe you have to think about, well, is that my ideal audience? Right.
Right.
And so I think, a lot of people struggle with that. And one of the greatest things that I have learned starting my business, like the greatest like hidden secret of entrepreneurship, is strategic alliances and partners and making those relationships. And a group setting is better than any setting that you're ever going to be in. You're going to get such better support. And so if your client doesn't understand that, then maybe it's not the right client.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the way I look at it. It's like, you have to position it as like, how can I sell this to you when you realize like this is an asset, this is a value. I'm just giving you more value.
Mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes it's just in positioning the way that we think about things, because we're looking at it through this thing like, oh, well, I'm going to be limiting their access to me, but you're really opening up doors for them by
Mm-hmm.
providing them with this amazing community, right? Or these other people that you're bringing together. You know, I'm part of Julie Stoyan's Digital Insiders. There's 100 of us, and we are like the bestest of friends. And
Mm-hmm.
we have learned so much from each other. And it's honestly, it goes well beyond Julie, but it's just like such an amazing value asset. And I think that if we can, as coaches, learn to say like, well, we're not limiting our clients, we're actually adding more value.
Right, right. And really, and even for anybody that's listening that is thinking about, do I join a mastermind or something like that? And that is the value of that, because like for me in particular, like I learned so much listening to other people, even if their business is not anywhere close to what I do. You start to say like, oh my gosh, how can I make that work for me? Right.
Absolutely.
You start thinking like, also there's a different way to do business, to do marketing and things like that, because I have been in programs where it's like everybody is creating the same program or the same business, right? And you never want it to look like that. You want to do what feels good for you, right?
Right.
So I think it's so important to be open, because you can learn from other people more than you can actually learn from your coach. Just think about, now you have other coaches in your group as well.
Exactly.
So that's really cool.
And a good example too is like, I've had people in my group where they come in sort of at different times, and those the people that have been in there a long time, I used to think, well, do I want to mix those two groups because they're sort of here and this group is here? The great thing is that even when a beginning question comes in, it's like something brand new sometimes, because you forget, like we all forget, and then we go back. And one of the things that I have in both of my programs is called the reverse experience formula. And it's where we kind of break down like, how did we get to where we are, because we didn't start, it's the working backwards, because we move so quickly through these stages as we're building our business, that we can't remember how we felt when we were in this stage. And so when you can do that, like, and kind of hear someone else that's coming in at a different level, then you're really able to learn how to make your business better, because you're hearing it from their pain point, right? Their sensory, and you're like, oh wow, I never thought of it like that, or wow, that's really impactful how they said it, and that language, or just whatever it is going to be different than how you may have interpreted it.
Yeah, for sure. And also too, like I always like to look at it like, let's just say you have it down, right? You know your thing, but then you don't know what's next. You don't know what the next problem that they have, right? That could be your next thing, or what you can upsell them into, because maybe you haven't thought of it, because you haven't realized what their next problem is, how to get to their next level. And then you be on that journey with them, or stay on that journey with them, right?
Yes.
So we talked a little bit about those clients that we care about more. I don't know if you mean this, but can you describe what you mean by soul sucking service work and trading time for money? Because I kind of have an idea, but I definitely want to make sure. I don't want to think about or predict what I think you're going to say. I would love for you to share that.
So I just look at it like, you're trading this valuable time, for one-on-one support, and you're putting in this energy to build really someone else's business. And so like when someone comes to me, and I'm sure it happens to so many of us in the digital world, right? Like we have a friend that's like, oh, I want a website. And you're like, you have no idea what that means. You know what I mean? You're thinking like, okay, they want a website, but how are they going to get traffic? And how are they going to do this? And do they have this? And do they have that? And then all of a sudden you right there have thought of, it's basically taking a brick and mortar and building it from scratch is what you're doing right there.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I just think of it like, when I'm going to do all of that for someone, then they have to be involved. And so soul sucking client work is when they have no care of that. They just, like you said, they just want to hand it over. And then you are like, well, I got to do this. I got to make it work, because at the end of the day, it's going to look like you don't know what you're doing, right? If you can't make it successful. And so then you are in overwhelm, you've got client scope creep, you didn't price it accurately, right? Because you didn't price for all these extra things, but you're doing it because you have a reputation to uphold. You have you have your values, you have your core, beliefs and what you stand for. And so you overload yourself trying to prove your worth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I call soul sucking client work, because it takes the life out of you, because you want so badly for it to work,
Mm-hmm.
because you're a good person. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, they just continue to take. And so for me, I want to be able to give to the people that want that same thing that I want, that have the same values, that have the same beliefs, because if they do, then they're going to want to work on their business.
Right.
And they're going to want
to
not be a soul-sucking client.
Exactly. And honestly, take responsibility for their business.
That's right.
And I know sometimes every time I say that, somebody gives me like a side eye, but it's the truth. You know what I mean? It's like, everybody's always looking for someone to blame. No one ever wants to blame themselves. And so when you're in this close and have this soul sucking one-on-one done for you work, that's the way it becomes. And then you're right, you get all up in your head, like, how do I do? And then you're like, well, hold on. If you really take a step back, it's like, I can only do so much. And like, they have to kind of step in and, do some on their part. So when we're talking about pivoting, like, what is one solution that you have to pivot your entire business away from done for you?
So for me, and this is sort of how I got started. And I remember thinking to myself, look, I've got a lot of experience. I do this for other clients. I can do this, like, I'm just going to launch. I mean, I know what I want to sell, and I'm just going to do it. And I did it, and it failed miserably. Right. And I'm thinking, like, how could I have failed? And I sort of had to go back and like look at everything and dissect everything. And what I had done was I had only thought about what I wanted, like what I wanted to sell. And I think it's a big mistake that we make. It's like, well, I have this offer, or I have this idea of what I want to sell. And then we try to make that. And I've had a lot of people that I've worked with or that I've coached that have a full course that they've built. They can't sell it, and they don't understand why. And this took me launching and building and all of that to figure out. And it took me a long time. And it just depends on where you are to kind of figure out why it didn't work. And so when I went back and looked, and this is kind of where my reverse experience formula came from, was I was looking at like, okay, I'm going to package up everything I know into this amazing offer. But if you think about where your people are, right? We're all at different stages of our journey. So I was like, it's like if someone said to you, well, I want to teach stay-at-home moms how to become a VA, working from home, and make a great income, right? And then you put together this program that included everything. And like, it basically told them, how to, create a Excel document, how to do their billing, and you're marketing like this huge thing. And what you're not realizing is that this stay-at-home mom is not thinking about all of those business needs, right? She's not thinking about the business plan. She's not thinking about her Excel documents or her QuickBooks. She's not thinking about any of that stuff. Only thing she's thinking about is, I need a quick solution right now so that I can make money fast from home because whatever reason, this is what I need. So what is that little thing that you can build to create that bridge to get them to the other side? And then you're bringing them into your world. Then you can slowly start creating other things that they're going to need, because you can't think of it like, I'm going to create a solution for all these things, because they're not there. It's kind of like, you know, you have ears to hear when you're ready to hear, and you have eyes to see when you're ready to see.
Right.
Took me forever to figure this out. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with. It's like, well, I have this thing and this is how it works, and you've got to take these steps to get there. And that's how it is. But it's like, could you take a piece of that? Could you take where your audience is and meet them there with just a little nugget that could get them across that bridge and into your world? You give them a win and then take them to that next level.
Right. I love that. I love that. And when you go to pivot, because this is something I know even for myself, when you're usually done for you work or one-on-one work, I know for me, I've never had to officially market, even though that's the business that I'm in, because all my clients are referral based. So it's really great to have all these referrals. However, when you go to pivot, maybe your following is not that big. I mean, I even did research on other agencies and their followers are smaller than mine. So I was like, okay, I'm not alone or whatever. That like, you can still be super successful and make lots of money. It's not all about the vanity numbers. However, when you're going to pivot and you're looking to do the one-to-many, like it comes up to be like, oh wait, I need a big following because I need to know a lot of people need to know who I am.
Right. Well, that's the other thing that I do teach in this, because at the time, like when I first launched my first product, I think I sold like 900 within like less than 2 months. I had 900 people in that program.
Oh, wow.
But all of those people came onto my list. I had like the tiniest list ever at the time. And this is what made my list. For one, like, you know, people talk about freebies and, you know, you got to build your list. You got to build your list. And all of us in marketing have been hearing that for how long? And like you said, if you're in the referral business, like you're like too busy because you're working with clients to build your list, right? So you're not building your own content. You're not really creating that list, but you've got a ton of experience. So you could, but you've been too busy. And so now all of a sudden, here you are. This is exactly why this is perfect for this audience. Because here you are, you've got a ton of experience, you are an authority, but no one knows that because you don't have a list, which is so silly, right? So what this does is it kind of eliminates that freebie following, right? Because how many people grab a freebie and then they never buy anything, right? And now I feel like it's getting even harder to get people to put in an email for a freebie, because they're just like, I'm so sick of emails. I'm not putting in my email again. I don't even want the freebie. So what this does is when you can take a little sliver of something that you have and offer it at an affordable price, right? You're getting buyers, because people that are actually willing to take out their wallet are the people you want, even if it's for a small amount.
Right.
So if you can get those people into your world with this offer, you're building your list of buyers, and you're building a list of buyers that you chose, right? Because you're choosing specifically what you want to sell and specifically who that audience is. And that's kind of what I did. And it's so amazing because I could still remember the girl who does my hair comes to my house, and I'll never forget, like I put my ads up on like a Sunday night, and I didn't realize that I had turned them on. Like I thought they were still in draft mode. So I turned my ads on, and I had put at the end of my funnel, like if they wanted to schedule a call. And I probably had like 15 calls scheduled on Monday. I looked at my calendar, it was completely booked. And I was like, oh my God, I went back to look because my girl was here to do my hair. And I so I had like stuff in my hair, and I had like all these calls. And it was because I had launched this offer. And then on the back end of the offer, I said, hey, if you want more help, because this, like, you want to take it to the next level, call me. Let's do a strategy call. Right. And so I got all those people calling, and they were ready to take that next step. So you kind of get like the best of both worlds, right? You get your your initial people who maybe they just buy that offer, you give them a small win. They're happy. They stay in your world. They become advocates for you. They give you those reviews, that social proof you need, which I got a ton of after that offer. People would respond in email or even did a survey, and they'd give you that feedback, and then you can use it later. And then secondly, the people that were ready to go to the next level were calling. And the funny thing was is that I wasn't ready with my next offer when those people were calling, and I didn't want to do done for you. So I was kind of in a weird spot, like, well, I don't really have a mastermind developed yet, but like, so where do I take these people,
Right.
So now I've since developed a mastermind too, but that's kind of the process, right? So you're pulling these people in, you're starting with kind of like this entry level offer, but you can kind of skip that phase of building your list. And it's perfect for people like you and me who are experienced, but just haven't spent the time to build that list.
Yeah, I love that idea. And you're right, because and the whole point of this and this shifting is because we get booked and burnt out. That's what I call it. It's like at first we're like, we have no clients, and then now we're like, got all these clients, and I'm like, yes, the income is really great, but then you're like up to here, right?
Yeah.
And that's the other reason. It's like you're not marketing too, because you literally can't take on any more work because you're so booked. Even if you hired someone, you'd fill that person up, and everybody's now booked with all these done for you services. So even just in what we've kind of gone over and what we were talking about now, there's things that like you how I don't know, I'm big into how you be, right? How we are, like, how we think, our thoughts, our beliefs, and all that good stuff. So what are some identity shifts that really changed within yourself when you kind of went into your new market?
I think the biggest thing, the biggest shift for me was, I was so scared, like you were talking about earlier, because I have a worry side to me, and I'm the one in my family who's like, just like, I'm obsessed with entrepreneurship, and everybody's like, she's crazy. She's got her own way of thinking, but I think for me, taking that leap proved to me that I could do it, and that I could have like a choice in doing it. And then secondly, I felt like without doing that, without trying, like I just felt like I was always missing out on something, because I learned so many lessons, like just launching and going through that experience myself, like just all of the little things that I learned along the way, right? Like I learned like, oh my gosh, now I'm getting asked to be on podcasts. I'm getting on summits. I'm speaking more. I'm doing all these things that I never got asked to do before, even though I'm still the same person, right? Like I'm not more experienced now, but I was able to, because I took that leap of faith, I was getting invited to do more, and I was getting all these collab requests, and just different opportunities, and it was like a huge learning experience. And I think too, like you can't really teach something as well until you've gone through it yourself.
Right. For
right.
sure.
And so even though we do this stuff for clients and we watch them launch, until we actually try it and do it ourselves, like we don't feel that same pain. So I feel like my stories are better. They're more authentic. I can be more real. It's, I can show actual numbers. I can understand the process of, the whole funnel thing, because I felt it. I was using my money from my wallet, and I mean, I think 1 month I spent $30,000 on ads, but I still made a big profit, and I was bringing in, new clients. And again, like you don't have to spend that much. It's just that I was just putting in what I was getting out. So it was kind of like, and Facebook is a little bit more difficult now, so you can't put all your eggs in one basket. But the opportunity to be recognized by podcasts and summits and other opportunities gives you the opportunity to get in front of more people organically, right? And participate in conversations online that people might have been like, I don't know anything about you. You don't really, like, who are you?
So what advantages did your business have as a result of all these opportunities?
Well, I think that for me, I've just continued to grow since then. And now I
Mhm.
have 3 programs all together that I kind of focus on, and just growing those has continued because of these opportunities and because I've been able to get in front of more people, and I've been able to spend the time to really get to know myself and like the things I want to focus on. And I think when I was just doing the client work, I just felt like I was almost like just like robotic almost. Like I
Mhm.
just didn't feel it. And now I feel like I feel it more, and it's like it's my world now. Like,
Mhm.
and like I think it's like, you're I hate to use the word passion. It's just like, how can I get out of that word? But like I'm super passionate about helping and talking to people like you. It's so fun, and it's like it brings so much joy and energy.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a good way to say it is you're no longer like on the search for happiness. You're kind of living like this joy, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Yes. Yes, because you're loving what you do because you're not burnt out.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
well, and then let me ask you this. So, how do you or what allowed you to get those double digit months without the double digit hours? If we're talking about that.
So as I started to grow, one of the things that I invested in was having a coach, and really, so the things that I'm not very good at, I kind of recognize what they are.
Mhm.
And one thing that I'm not good at is asking for help, right? I
Mhm.
know a lot of entrepreneurs like myself, we don't like to ask for help. And so I struggle with that. And so in doing this, I've allowed myself to hire a team and get support, and that was a huge thing for me. I don't know if I answer that question like you want.
Mhm.
I may have kind of messed that question up, but
It's
for me,
fine.
I feel like it allowed me to build out a team that could help me. And again, that team changes, often, but especially with the tech side, because we're always got new tech stuff going on. But yeah, I think for me that was a huge part, like, because letting go. And I
Mhm.
always, was in some sort of that bootstrap mind frame, and I
Mhm.
just couldn't pivot away from it. And I kept trying to do everything myself. And this allowed me to, um, I don't know, just to open up the opportunity to bring people in to help me and let some of that go.
Yeah, and I love that because I know what happens also with done for you work. It is a lot of you or whomever doing all the work, right? So then you're either thinking, oh my gosh, there's so many things, or I need to have all these team members doing this. But when you go into like the one to many, it's work, but it's not the same type of work. So you may not need the same type of team member, but you do need help, but in a different way. And
Yes,
then,
that's
right?
exactly right. You
Yes.
clarified that really well, because with client work, especially for me, and this is all about setting up expectations. But for me, I was always the face, right? And
Hmm.
so I had to be on the calls. I had to be, one of my clients was in San Diego and DC. So I was flying to San Diego 2, sometimes 3 times a month,
Oh, wow.
and I would be there 3 or 4 days, never seeing my kids.
Mhm.
DC was another place I went, and that was a constant until COVID, that I started not traveling as much, and now hardly at all with that. And now I travel
Mhm.
just for my masterminds, which
Right.
is great. But I think you're right, because you're the face of the company. A lot of times when you are doing one-on-one, you're that face, so you have to be there. They don't want to talk to your assistant or the person maybe that's helping you write copy, because you're the strategy person.
Right.
And so when you're meeting, you're always meeting with them. And again, you could set your business up differently, and
Exactly.
you could still do one-on-one and not have to do that. But I think a lot of us fall into that trap,
Mhm.
because that's just how we set it up, and we're kind of the face, and that's what they expect. And
Mhm.
once you let them expect that, you can't really change that. But you're right, now it's like I can get on a call or I can teach, and it's fun. And yes, I have my team and they participate, and we all get involved, you know, and
Exactly. Yeah, because think about it. If it's more customer service based, like who's answering the emails for customer service or customer support, you don't need to be the one in there, right?
right.
Someone else would be doing that. And then, okay, so let me ask you this, because this is something like if someone's not quite ready to pivot their business, right? So something that comes up for me a lot is I'm very big on like, what am I going to do with myself? Because I'm not the type of person that can just like, I don't know, sit around and whatever. Um, so it's kind of like, well, wait, I don't know if I want to let it go because what am I going to do with all this empty space on my calendar? Right.
Right,
Or
right.
maybe they're just not ready. So what would you say to somebody who is just not ready to pivot yet?
So what I say about this is it's it's kind of like if you think about a brick and mortar business, trying to get online or transfer some of their stuff online is so difficult. And I don't have the statistic in front of me, but it's a huge amount of failed attempts. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that the problem is that when we think about building offers online, we think of it as one or the other. So
Mm.
I think of it like when you're creating an offer that's like an entry offer, it can be for a brick and mortar business, or it can be set for someone who has one-on-one service work, but you're trying to create a bridge to get people to take a step closer to you. So if you didn't have all of those referrals, an offer like this would be a great opportunity for you to start getting those referrals. And then you can sort of decide, you know, pick and choose, like kind of like how I set up that funnel where I was like, look, if you're not ready, just, you know, let's start here and do this little offer, you know, and then they'll get a win. And then, you know, 3 months from now, maybe they're ready to do that one-on-one with you. But it gets people an offer, building an offer, no matter what business you're in, is going to get people to take a step closer to you. And if you
Mm-hmm.
position it in a way that is where they are at the time and what they need, you're
Mm-hmm.
just going to draw more people into your world.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Any last minute, anything you'd like to share?
I would just say, you know, if you're thinking about doing it, like even if you just start doing it on the side, I mean, I think it's such a great experience. And I think that's kind of where we're all shifting to anyway. I mean, more and more and more. So I think the longer that you wait to do something like that is going to be, you're going to feel like you're even further left out in the long run. So I would say if you're thinking about it, like just start doing it, even if it's, you know, you're spending a couple hours a week on it, you know, and you don't have to feel like it's all or nothing. Just start slowly and build something that you love, because you're building something for yourself that you feel strong about. And I'm sure there's parts of your business
Mm-hmm.
that you really love doing, and there's parts that you don't. So maybe that's
Yes.
an area you can focus on.
I do love that. And the beautiful thing about entrepreneurship, just to kind of go off of what you're saying, is that you can make it your own. So if you want to do a combo, why not do a combo? You know what I mean? And I
Exactly.
really think that as we evolve as humans, right, or our life change, our interests change, I really think that if you're all up into, oh my gosh, I love the grind and I love doing this. And I think that as you get older, speaking from experience, like those things change, right? Especially if you have children that are growing and things like that, and you want to be a part of their lives or participate in certain things, sometimes you can't. So by even just starting to shift or pivot a little bit allows you to have more of that freedom or more of that control over your own thing to do what you want to do. And I think that's so cool about it. So my advice is, if you're on the fence, is just to kind of be open to consider it. Follow Tish's advice and just basically maybe come out with something little. Start building the list slow by slow, and the list of buyers, right? Not
Yes.
leads.
And I was going to say too, one of the things that I regret, um, and I tell people this all the time, record yourself doing things, right?
Hmm.
Because how many times are you building something out for someone and you're like, oh my gosh, I should have recorded that, you know? Or so just start getting in the habit of making these recordings and then, you know, filing them in a way that makes sense. And then you've already started doing some of the work.
Right.
I mean, these are things you're doing every day anyway, so why not record it? And then the second thing I would say is, you know, with like Google reviews and things like that becoming more and more important, that social proof is becoming more and more important. Another way that I tell some of my clients who are, you know, at the higher side where they're more corporate clients, I say it's kind of like flipping the funnel sideways. Instead of just thinking about your top of the funnel, you're thinking about your bottom of the funnel too, and how can those people become advocates for your business. And so it's giving back to that community something that you can give. So even if that offer is for the people who've already been through your course, maybe you've already helped them as a one-on-one client, you're giving them something that allows them to give you the feedback that you need to get that social proof. Because I think social proof is becoming so much more important. And so that if you just look at it like, well, this is the way that I can also get social proof at the same time, that can be super valuable.
Yeah. Oh, what a great idea. Okay, listen, this time for Michelle's Hot Minute. Okay. I'm going to set my alarm on my phone for a minute. I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. Don't be nervous.
All right.
They're going to be fun. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
What is your guilty pleasure?
A glass of wine in like the end of the day, just a glass of wine, white wine.
Okay. What is your favorite thing to do with your kids?
My favorite thing to do with the kids is probably go on a boat.
What is the best book you would recommend for every entrepreneur?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Okay, this is a great book right here, and I have 2 copies.
The Ultimate Sales Machine.
Yep, by Chet Holmes. This book is amazing.
Oh, I'm gonna have to get it.
When we hang up, if you give me your address, I will mail you my extra copy.
Oh, that's so sweet. Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite way to distress?
Favorite way to distress is probably just like going somewhere with my kids, like usually somewhere fun, like I know, like a mini weekend trip, or like I love taking vacations with the kids. So anytime I can just do like something with them that is not work related.
I love that. Well, where is your next travel destination?
So it will be in New York next Saturday, and I'm going to be meeting we have the mastermind we're doing in New Haven, but I'm meeting 4 friends from my mastermind group, and we're doing like a day in New York City. So I'm super excited. We call ourselves the Coffee Kids.
I'm super jealous. I love New York. It's one of my favorite places.
Oh yeah. Well, you have to tell me your favorite places to go. Maybe we can take
my
part.
God, there are so many. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you. Okay, and then lastly, what tells you most about a person?
Say that again.
What tells you most about a person?
I would say their smile.
Oh, I love that. This was so much fun. I so appreciate you for coming on the show today. Thank you so much. Can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Sure. You can find me on Instagram. I am Amplify My Influence, and all my links are there.
Oh, I love it. Definitely go check Tish out. I'll drop where you can find her in the show notes. Thank you so much again for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
Until next time, let's grow your business together.